Welcome back to the Orca Boat Shop. My name's Rod. In the last episode on building the little Kiska model, I finished planking up the coaming recess with the yellow cedar and coated with epoxy. So now I'm about to cut out the actual cockpit opening. I've laid down some masking tape and I've got a little pattern, a scale size pattern, and I'm going to lay that onto there as well, trace it out and cut it out with a jigsaw. And we'll just flip the pattern over, tape it down on the same marks, center line, and at the aft portion here, lining up on center line at the fore portion of the deck. Now I like to just stand back and make sure that it looks like it's symmetrical, you know, such as measuring a distance across a strip. Let's measure across the full length one here, and that appears to be about 1 centimeter exactly. And we're good on the other side as well. Let's move across this one maybe. So that's that strip right there. Moving the aft portion of it, 16 mil. And over here we have, see, we have a little more over there. So just double check. Aft portion of that strip here. Nope, wait a minute, I mismeasured. 17. Aft portion over here is kind of moving on the 19 mil. So it would appear that the pattern is just a little bit skewed. So what I'm going to do is just skew it out a bit. And trace that line. We'll go with the outside line. That's going to work. I would still consider this a bit of a weak structure. There's no epoxy on the back side. I still need to sand that, but I can't get in there right now until I cut this opening. I think the process will be is that I will cut this opening, build all the little tiny vertical pieces, and then sand the whole underside of the deck at the same time and coat all that with epoxy, solidify the structure, and then I can put the lip on. And we're basically done actually, other than sanding and varnishing. For the vertical coaming, I just cut out a whole bunch of little strips of planking that I had used on the hull, and these we're going to start off by gluing them vertically. They're much taller than needed, but I'd rather have them a little extra tall than too short. Just like we did on the coaming recess, starting at the bow and the stern portion, or fore and aft portion, I'm going to do the same by gluing a couple too here, and I can work my way around and put the last couple of pieces around the center. To start off, I've glued two pieces together. I did actually kind of slightly bevel one of those pieces because we're going around a curve here. Now I just need to center it and get it standing as vertical as possible. And I'll give it a hit of accelerant and let that, come on girl. And it's going to be piece by piece. Now to come around the curve, to just slightly bevel these edges, a little bit small to be in my hands and running with a, well, maybe, you know, a small plane, a small beveled edge. But you know, I really have to come in here and check and see that's quite a bevel on there to get around that tight corner. And I'm just reaching underneath my finger, making sure that these pieces are extending at least below the deck by a tiny bit. Otherwise I'm going to have to fill that later. Now because I've got accelerant kind of on there, I got to get those pieces on there quickly. So I jump around from this side to the aft portion here. And these really don't need any bevel on them, so we can, till I get into the corner. For the cockpit lip, to which a spray skirt would attach to, I'm just going to glue on multiple layers of very thin pieces, but I need the pieces to follow the contour of the deck. So I've just taken a pencil on a little stick and I'm going to run it around the whole thing. And that will be the line to which I will glue the little strips to. The underside will be. So when I cut a bunch of these little yellow cedar strips, I'm literally just going to put some glue on, spray it, stick it, and just keep building layers and layers as carefully as possible, but without it breaking like that. Whether I can just run it all the way around up to the front and then maybe add in a little piece like I've done on full-size boats and like I did on the bow and stern here. So maybe I'll do an alternate color if I do the yellow cedar lip in the front here, maybe a little dark red cedar piece to fit into the front. We'll see how it goes, I guess, and gluing them all in. But I really need this to glue down and stick following the contour, which means it's a bit of a compound curve, but I'm pretty confident that it's not too much that I cannot sort of get this strip to follow that line. How many layers on there I'll need, I don't know. You know, the normal lip would probably be 3/4 thick on a full-size boat. This is a little less than half size, so 3/4, 3/8 thick maybe. How many layers will that be? We're going to need at least 6 pieces of layers going around here of yellow cedar. I could alternate as well by doing a layer of yellow cedar, then red cedar, then yellow cedar, red cedar. I mean, cutting these strips is not going to be an issue. The red cedar will probably bend a little bit better. Now once I've got these all glued on, then really it's just a lot of sanding and epoxy coating and shaping. Okay, plan of attack here is to attach some glue to the boat, combing riser, spray some accelerant on the piece that's going in. And the reason for that is I don't want a lot of accelerant onto the boat. It stays quite a while, and if I touch anywhere with my fingers or I get a little, you know, the next piece doesn't go on exactly where I want it, then I'm kind of screwed because it will not be coming off. As we've seen in a few other, in the last video where I had to cut some pieces out. So I am going to see if I can just apply some glue to one side here. Still needs some sanding and all, but we're going to give it a try. The nice thing about this glue is that when hard, it's actually clear. So even if I put epoxy over top of it, you know, it's not going to leave like a big glue line. You won't really see it. So here we go. Experiment attempt number 1. I've also kind of marked the center of this strip so I know where to start. I don't want to have this thing glued on and then come up short at the bow end. A little bit like so. I'm going to start at the back here, right on my line on center. And it should just stick pretty fast. Hopefully it's not going to break. That will be the real problem, because once it's broken and stuck on there, I'm not going to be happy. So there, it's really around that back corner there. That's the tricky part. Now we got to start curling up. I wish I had a way of kind of holding this on the side. Maybe, but I got this sticking out the other way. So it's curling out here because of the compound. I'm going to try and see if I can hold it here and make it stay. Could be glue is already set up. Now I got to see if I can get a little more down in there. It's gonna, because there's catalyst on there, it's gonna harden up fast. Well, it is following the curve. It's not perfect, but now we shall go right to the other side, the other way. If I just spray a little catalyst here and there and push it in, maybe that'll be the way to go. Okay, here we go. Gotta get it in there. Well, that's one. 6, 7 more to go. Okay, to be honest with you, the whole gluing these individual strips around the combing to create the lip, doing it with CA glue and spraying and sticking, and it's not working for me really. So I'm going to attempt to just do the last couple of pieces here in simple wood glue, which I have diluted down a little bit so that I got a little more working time of getting it together. I'm thinking I could have just glued these all up at the same time with wood glue, clamped them on, maybe even done it the same way with a full-size boat, and that would be building it on the boat, using the boat as a mold, and then removing it, cleaning it up, and then just permanently gluing it on. Remember, there's no stress on this. It's just hanging on the wall, so it's not going to be an issue as far as strength-wise. So I'm just going to squeeze the glue out of here, pinching these together, and then I think what we'll do is we will just clamp it on in the middle here. And we're just going to work our way around with a whole bunch of clamps. Not to mention that the clamps will hold it from, or prevent it somewhat from breaking as I go around, because they're holding it in place. Just want to make sure we're following the right line here. Getting the little bit of curvature, the upward sweep. It would seem that I've got, see, and here's the other advantage, I can take it off, because it looks like that inside piece there is too long one way. I think what I'm going to end up doing actually is sliding it down a bit. That'll be better. So in hindsight, I probably could have done the whole lip in this fashion in one go, as opposed to trying to glue on all the individual strips one at a time. That probably actually would have been faster, because with the CA glue, there are areas where the glue set up faster than I could sort of get the in position. It meant that it is there's a tiny little gaps between some of the wood due to the fact that the hardened glue wouldn't allow me tight clamping pressure anymore. Looking for any gaps where I can just add. I got a couple of these little quick grips here. I want to make sure we get good glue squeeze out. This is kind of ugly up the front here, but there's going to be a solid wood piece going in there. Well, this should have held by now. It's been on there a couple of hours. The top edge is going to be easy to trim down and sand, and the outer edge as well. It's the underside that we got to be concerned about, and what tool is going to get in there and clean that out. It'll be a tough one. Little tiny sanding block, I suppose, but we'll get to that very shortly. Thank you very much for watching. Maybe do consider becoming a subscriber. At least do me a favor and hit that like button, or even share it with someone that you know that might be interested in this little build. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.